What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Culture Wave Media Network. We are back to discuss another film that we were lucky enough to get from South by Southwest with a screener. It won Best Documentary at this year's South by Southwest Festival. It is a film called Summer 2000, the X-Cetra Story. It's all about a group of girls who, at a young age, accidentally winded up making one of the biggest hit records of the last 6 years. It's a crazy movie, crazy premise. Excited to talk about it today. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Darian. I am joined this time by Liz Seiko.
What's going on?
What's up? So this was one from the first time we got the lineup of South by, and I saw it. I was like, this is really interesting. First of all, we were both born a little before this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the young women that are in this are a bit older than us, probably by like 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was born 95. You were 96, 97. So this is still our time, though.
Yes.
And so, like, I want to start there because, like, a little bit about the movie, but more about, like, I'm, like, starved for things like this. Maybe it's because I'm super nostalgic, but this movie is super nostalgic for a lot of different reasons. And it's part of the reason I loved it so much. It's genuinely one of my favorite docs I've seen since we've been on this channel doing film festivals. I love this movie a lot. You are one of 3 girls.
Yes.
You have sisters.
Yes.
You were raised during this time. So for you, was this like a lot of the reviews I had seen, especially from female critics, were like, this movie feels like a warm hug. Like genuinely is like, this just makes me feel like I feel seen, all these things. How did you feel with like kind of coming out of this movie, seeing it? And did you feel that sense of nostalgia, even though, again, you were 3 when they recorded this album.
Yeah.
But it was still your upbringing. It was still the early 2000s was when we were kind of coming of age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think definitely nostalgia, and also just like thinking we actually all really did have the same childhood of just like us girls like running around making up fake scenarios and then being like, get a camera and like, let's record this. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, you are a spy and you're going to break up with me because you secretly want like my friend, but then you're going to kill me, or like some crazy thing. And so watching these 4 childhood friends, all this footage of them just like coming up and doing these random scenes and just being creative for me was very nostalgic, because that's all my childhood was, both with my friends and with my sisters, is just coming up with these crazy things. And obviously it was because it was definitely pre-social media and everything. And so there wasn't that fear of putting yourself out there and being necessarily judged, because you didn't have anywhere to put this stuff. It was just, let's create, let's make, and let's just have like the time of our life. And I think that this doc captures that so well. And something I also just like really love on the other side of that, not necessarily nostalgia, is the conversation and the kind of like question of, can we ever get back to that as adults? Yeah. Are we able to? Is it something that is capable and we just need to give ourselves the opportunity and allow ourselves to go into that state? Or is it something that truly was only in childhood and we're not able to get back to that state?
Yeah, it really makes you set yourself, like there's a lot of people that throw out the, you know, like you're a certain age now, you have to be an adult. And this movie really allows all of the girls to be children again, spiritually and emotionally with what they go through. Some of my favorite, like, so setting the stage again for what this documentary is about. Ayden Mayeri, who is an actress, I believe this is her directorial debut. She made this documentary. She's one of the 4 girls that were a part of this sisterhood, these group of friends as young girls who decided to, not only they make like these fun home videos, they make their own little short films, but they decide to record an album, and they do it just for themselves. And again, like I think about, I'm not going to name names and people don't know necessarily, maybe you don't know where we all live, but like I remember when I went to high school, like a group of friends that like did the same thing.
Yeah.
So like, it's not, like you said, it's not a foreign experience for a lot of people.
Everybody did this.
Everybody had done this. It's a really big creative outlet for people. And again, like growing up with the technology that we did with video cameras, digital cameras, video players, like a lot of people were doing things like this. And so they record this album. 3 of the girls are 11. One girl's 9. She's one of the younger sisters of one of the other girls. And they record this album. They do not release it. They do not talk about it. And they're able to release or record this album somewhat professionally because one of the girls' mothers is a music producer, and they have a home studio that's a pretty great setup. And so she helps them do this as like kind of a bonding experience. And they say they want to do it. They kind of give them the freedom to be creative. They make this album, and her husband, the producer, uploads this album to the internet at some point. And it's during COVID, and it becomes this like cult thing overnight where different record companies are getting wind of it. They're playing it on radio stations. Rolling Stone and other music publishing companies are reaching out, trying to find these girls and say that we want to do a re-release of this on vinyl, which is crazy. So it's also this story of like overnight success and what that means. But like you said, it really drives home the fact that it brings all of the girls together for the first time in 20 years. And Ayden says exactly that. I'm curious on how you thought all of the personal stuff was handled, because there's a specific conversation that happens in this movie around the halfway point where they start to talk about the relationship between how their relationships kind of changed over time, but specifically with the younger sister, which like is heartbreaking in so many ways. But also is very realistic to like what, and again, you're an older sister. I'm not saying you've done the same thing with your sister, but like, I'm curious on the way they handle the bringing together these girls and finding that sisterhood again. What did you think about the way that it's presented in the doc, and just kind of what you alluded to a little bit about how that's really what is at the center of this, even though there is the musicality and all of that stuff, it's really bringing them all together and talking about what came before.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's also the conversation of, we've all had friendships that we thought we were going to be friends with them for forever. And then all of a sudden 5, 10, 20 years passes by, and you are now just seeing them either through Instagram or Facebook, or maybe even not. Maybe they're not available and you can't see them anywhere. And I think that to watch this group of friends now have to like figure out who each other are now, and also, like they say, it's not like you ever talk about why you ever stopped being friends with somebody, because majority of the time you don't really become friends with them again. And it's interesting. There's like 2 different point of views in the documentary. It's either some of the girls feel devastated about how some of the friendships ended, and that it really was a huge turning point in their lives, and that they feel very bad and guilty for how they treated the youngest. But then there's also the conversation of like, that's kind of just life, and like you can't really let it affect you, because it's not like they did anything that bad to her. It was just that they stopped hanging out with her because they did get to that point in age where
there's a gap.
Social gap. Yes, because it's all of a sudden like 16 hanging out with a 14-year-old, especially as a sibling, you do feel that different age. You feel those 2 years very specific, especially at that time frame, because it's like 16, you want to go out, you're going to party, you're hanging out with boys, you're starting to like push the limits, maybe even like drinking and like alcohol and smoking, versus 14, I think, is still in that childhood state and not fully understanding why the older girls are going and doing these things. And so, I mean, I think that if anything, it was better that they just stopped hanging out with her, because then they didn't push her into these very more adult situations. But I mean, yeah, it's interesting to like see them have these conversations that a lot of other people can definitely relate to, and look back on your own friendships and think like, like, by me just stopping hanging out with that person, like, did it affect them more in their life than I think that it did?
Yeah. And Ayden, again, one of the central subjects of this, and the director, she's very deeply affected by that whole breakup. It's again not a real breakup, but that distance that's kind of formed with the younger sister of one of the other bandmates, because it's a situation in which she later talks to her about, and she's like, you know, I had to come to an understanding that this is just the way it was going to be. You girls were a different age. They were in, I believe, the moment in time they talk about, I think that Gap is 13 and 11 at that point. So for the other three girls, they're like about to go into high school.
Yeah.
The other one is like a 6th grader. And their mother is like, you can't bring her around to these things anymore. Like, she's not at that point maturity wise or even social recognition wise to kind of understand what's happening. And we know that like you love her, but like you can't, when you're going out with boys, like she's not there yet, you know, like she's not there yet. And that's one aspect that I really love about the deep resonance of what this movie at the center of it is about relationships and is about friendships. But I also loved how, and this is like my nostalgia thing, it's like I loved how they also had that moment where they bring in the 2 boys that they were friends with, where it literally is like any situation where you're hanging out with old friends and you're just reminiscing and telling stories, and you're just watching it unfold. Because this movie is very universal for the fact that if you are anyone born in like the 90s or 2000s, this movie is like so for you, because it's really about what it was like coming of age in that time. And it opens with this great montage of Ayden talking about like, oh, I like one of my favorite, I was like laughing out loud when she's like, I just heard, like, she's reading her diary out loud for a lot of the documentary. And one of the things she's like, I just heard this great song by called Who Let the Dogs Out. Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, dude, like I love that song too when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous and it's hilarious and it's awesome. And the way that she kind of goes through the diatribes throughout the documentary about all these different moments in time in her life and their lives, xcetra's lives, I just felt was so poignant. And it really is just authentic. Like, so much of this documentary is really just 100% there for you to understand exactly what this relationship was and now what it's becoming again by the conclusion of the doc.
Yeah, and I think a huge part of that is 3 out of the 4 girls have nothing to do with acting or
the arts
in general. I don't remember exactly what they do, but I think like one girl is like
one works in tech.
Yeah.
One is, I think, just a stay-at-home mom. I'm not sure the younger sister.
I'm not either, but I know that she said that she has like a 9-to-5 job. And so I think that brings that level to this documentary of obviously realism, because they're just normal people that are trying to get that spark and that creativeness back. And I think it also brings an element to these conversations, because you have Ayden, who is very involved in the arts, definitely an emotional person, and is able to like dig a little bit deeper into things to get that emotional weight. But then you have these 3 other girls that maybe haven't spent this much time thinking on like the emotional tail of it and flexing like their creative brain of what does this new like fame mean and where can we go with it and do I want to go with it. And also the conversation of like they don't see themselves as singers, but yet here they are getting signed on like a record label. And so it's also a little bit of what's it called when like you feel like you're not a part.
Insecure? No.
It's
fish out of water, imposter syndrome.
Yes, imposter syndrome. I think that they start to bring in a little bit of, especially towards the end when they eventually start saying like, maybe we should like actually do this and see like what happens and write a new song. And that was one of my favorite parts, is watching these women who have not done anything creative in 20 years start to have the wheels turning of like, okay, but we could do this. And what about this chorus? And then these are just some things that I've been writing down the last week and some thoughts that I've been having. And that for me is such a exhilarating thing to watch on film. And I think very inspiring for people to watch, because it means that you don't have to obviously go the route of like being a creative person, but the thing that you always thought of or always were like, oh, I wish I could take that shot, doesn't mean you can't do it, because here these girls are 20 years later just trying something out and risking it. And it's not like they are probably going to win a Grammy, but like at least they're like having fun doing it and making a new song.
Yeah, you're a fly on the wall to the creative process that they're going through. And yeah, they might not have a platinum selling record, but they have a physical vinyl of something they did when they were 11 years old that is now going to be a touchstone in culture. Like so much that Alison Brie like winds up singing like the song and posting it on social media, and then she hosts like an album release party for all of them, which is so awesome. And I think that what makes this doc so great is that kind of dynamic of having both sides of it, where you have the creative process, you have still that feeling of being a child, but also like the wonder of being a kid and not letting anything affect you, but also seeing how their lives kind of ended up and how they were able to bring each other back to one another, like you talked about in the beginning, because you feel the love, like you feel the love from these girls, and you get these moments in time where like one of the girls goes through, like there's a moment where she's dating a guy who is emotionally abusive towards her, and that's talked about in the doc and why that's affecting, and Ayden even talks about how she had gone through drug issues when she was in college because of trauma that she had from losing a partner. So you get still these emotional beats that are authentic, but you also get the emotional beats from the realism of what that relationship is, and kind of seeing them just be glued back together again. And I think it's beautiful. It's one of my favorite films, like I said, that I've seen at a festival in a really long time. It's one of my favorite docs I've seen at a festival. You can listen to all their music online now, I'm pretty sure. Like you were pulling up some of the stuff on Apple before we started recording.
Witchy, whispery, unique tone.
They say it in the doc. It's offbeat. It's not like, it's not something that sounds professionally recorded, but a lot of people really enjoyed it, and it is a vibe. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's kind of a vibe. I was vibing along the whole time.
It's very
watching the doc.
Yeah, it's very LSD vibes.
Yeah, exactly. And Ayden Mayeri, so she's been in a few things that we've seen since we started Culture Wave. I know Liz had seen her acting as a lead in a smaller film called Honey June, which you really loved.
I loved it.
And she's done some other things since then. I think she's in the After Party on Apple. She also, I believe, is in Your Friends and Neighbors right now. She was in I Love That For You with Vanessa Bayer. So like she's getting opportunities as an actress, but honestly speaking, I'd really love to see her stick with directing. Like I want her to keep acting as well. Yeah. But I do think that she has a real knack. Like this is a really, really well put together documentary. Like it does the perfect job of jumping back and forth in time. Stylistically, it's really fun, and it's a time capsule. And I just loved it. I really love this movie, even though I'm not a female and I didn't have a little sisterhood of my own. I had great relationships.
You still made movies when you were younger.
I did. I made little videos with my friends.
Of course, everyone did.
It was just a great kind of jump back in time and getting to see this relationship unfold and this amazing, unique story of what X-Cetra is.
The story alone, I couldn't believe.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
It's crazy.
But yeah, highly recommend this movie. Please seek it out. I don't know if it's going to get a release in theaters or anything like that, but if we get when we get details on video on demand or anything, we'll be sure to share that with you guys. It's a really great doc. Love to celebrate it and celebrate girlhood and adolescence and all of that. Discovery, all that is great in this film. So we really enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys can seek it out if you can. If you did have a chance to see it at South by or somewhere else, comment your thoughts in the comment section. We'd love to have a conversation with you guys about it. You can like this video, help it get more attention, share this video with friends, follow us on social media at Cinema Wave Media, at Culture Wave Media. And you guys follow us on TikTok, everywhere else. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube, so we'd really appreciate you guys hitting that subscribe button. And thank you guys for watching. Just signing off. I'm Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Liz Seiko.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.